social media could be banned for under 16s to protect them. How is this going to work, if at all?
Well, it's bizarre, isn't it? It came out as the tragic murder of Brianna Ghey. Her mother campaigned for this.
Yeah.
And there are phones, which means that they are fairly basic phones that youngsters can have for just safety, can't have any of the apps. A lot of the app companies are now turning around and saying they're lowering the age to 13 as opposed to that sort of side. But it wouldn't have actually dealt with the mischief, because what happened at the horrible, horrible murder was actually about the dark web. It wasn't about these apps and social media and so on and so forth. It was about material which was found on the dark web as a result of it. But social media companies need to take responsibility for this content. That's been the big push at the moment. And they're being fined up to about 10% of their annual turnover, gross turnover, which goes into billions.
But has that happened yet?
Well, this is what you need to do. You need to make examples of that sort of stuff to deal with the terrible things that have been happening.
A high-profile murder, and also there have been suicides as well linked to social media. These are high-profile events which sort of justify these kinds of laws, but I actually think there's a panoply of good reasons to prevent young people using social media. Over half of 8 to 10-year-olds have got smartphones. A considerable percentage of toddlers do. And in this country...
That's crazy, isn't it?
In this country, British children who have smartphones are spending over 2 hours a day on TikTok. I mean, I think instead of asking whether we should ban smartphones and social media for young people, why don't we just flip this around? What are they gaining from it? And you're not going to find many good answers. So a smartphone is great. It's a brain in your pocket. The world's at your fingertips. But there are so many studies that unequivocally link smartphone use with deleterious effects on your memory, your learning, all kinds of cognitive abilities. Of course, there are these other links to social media bullying and, you know, unpleasant content we don't want young people to see, such as pornography, violence, really unpalatable stuff on the dark web. But I think you just need to flip it round. What are they benefiting from social media? And the answer is probably nothing. They'd be better off forming real-life connections with young people. So I'm really here for it. I'm here for banning social media and smartphones for under 16s.
Right, but how would you, though? Because you're effectively saying you're going to stop somebody from doing something. A bit like the vaping ban, a bit like the smoking ban, a bit like the drinking ban. You know, teenagers, as you know better than anyone, as I do, will find a way to look at things.
Oh, I know. And you can't stop people doing it in their own homes, unless your homes are used.
You could say that about, you know, 15-year-olds getting hold of booze or cigarettes. I'm not saying it's equally... Although I think Laura's right. I mean, it's... What are these parents thinking? Any young child under, like, I don't know, 8 is being given their own smartphone. I mean, what child needs a smartphone?
I think in my household,
but I also think
we said when they go to secondary school, then that's maybe when they need...
You need certain things for safety. If people are travelling by themselves on the tube or on the bus, you need to make sure that... But also, it's not...
I didn't have a smartphone on public transport when I was going to
I guess there were safer days,
I know you don't think I'm old enough, but I really am, and I didn't have a smartphone for travelling to school.
It also depends on the content, because some of the content that you can get is fantastic for education, for improving mental ability and so on and so forth. It does depend on the content. Some of it is rubbish, and we absolutely have to prevent the horrific content that you get. But a lot of that, it's not just somebody else's responsibility, it's the parents together with the schools, together with society as a whole. And if you don't have a free market, then you're going to get a black market. And you work on that sort of premise that basically peer pressure. If you're the one kid in school who hasn't got a smartphone...
Yeah, but if they're banned, then loads of kids won't have them. So
well, no, but you'll find they'll find a way around it.
Of course, some will find a way around it. Of course, some kids will find a way around it, but overall, you would have fewer kids using it, and that's
this is like the argument they make, though, isn't it, for not legalising marijuana? Because as long as it's illegal, people have to make that decision to break the law in order to buy it, and so fewer of them will. And if you make it legal, then more of them will feel less inhibited, if you like. But equally, I would say that there's, and I take your point, Laura, as well about the, you know, the horrific nature of that particular murder. There've always been those horrible kinds of events. The Bulger killings, there was no social media, then everybody blamed... what was it?
It was Chucky, Chucky the movie. That's
Chucky.
Yeah, really Child's Play.
Yeah, Child's Play, Chucky.
And unfortunately, there are just some very horrible people.
Psychopaths could be influenced by any form of media. These high-profile events are what get us talking about these bans and rules and laws. But actually, there's just so many other reasons why kids shouldn't be on smartphones for hours a day.
No, I get that.
I think it's something like 4 hours a day on average.
Totally parenting.
Yeah, no, but it is. But having it down to the discretion of parents alone, and I agree that we can't create a perfect world, but right now, the children who come from the most privileged backgrounds, you know, like the children of the tech CEOs, they're not given iPads, they're not given iPhones, they're given books, and they're told to go outside and play. I mean, it's a sort of luxury belief type thing.
Yes.
Where people say one thing, evangelise one thing publicly, and then in private do something completely different.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Jobs, famous example, his kids didn't have Apple products.
Exactly.
And make no mistake, these tech platforms know exactly what they're doing. You know, there was leaked data from Meta, from Facebook and Instagram a few years ago, which said that they knew that the use of Instagram and Facebook was leading to body image anxiety and mental health disorders in young people. They knew it, they didn't plan to release that, that was leaked. So they're very aware of how unhealthy their platforms are for young people, while at the same time making them addictive and sticky.
And it's certainly made a big difference in the whole trans area, hasn't it? Because there's never been more sort of enthusiasm for some of the weird practices that we've seen.